And then Jean-Georges starts like singing happy birthday for Greg, and all 20, like the whole restaurant's singing. And I'm like, this is happening here. Like, this is so fucking amazing. Yeah, it's fucking Jean-Georges.
You're listening to Philly Who, the podcast that tells the stories of the doers, thinkers, and performers of Philadelphia. My name is Kevin Schmidlin, and today I'm talking with Jesse Ito. Jesse is the chef and co-owner of Royal Sushi and Royal Izakaya, a 2-in-1 restaurant combo in Queen Village. Jesse's claim to fame is his exclusive 10-seat omakase sushi bar, which is one of the very few restaurant experiences in Philly to get a 4-bell rating from the Inquirer. In this episode, you'll hear how Jesse got his start working at Fuji, his father's restaurant in South Jersey, and how one night, one of his regular customers came to him with a proposition.
He didn't know how to pitch it either. He's like, yeah, you want to open a restaurant in Philly? I'm like, what do you do?
That customer was serial restaurateur Dave Frank, and Jesse and his family would sell Fuji, team up with Dave, and go all in on bringing the omakase and izakaya experience to Philly. And it only took him 3 years to get those 4 bells.
I have vivid memories of my father always telling customers that he always wanted 4 bells. The fact that we could do this together and get that, it's super amazing.
And we'll hear how even though Jesse's already found success before the age of 30, it hasn't been all sunshine and roses.
I remember I broke a super expensive dish, and I still have that shard. I think I kept it because I was like, I don't want to forget what really bad service is.
These stories and more about Royal Sushi and Izakaya and Jesse Ito's journey to the elite, now on Philly Who. Stay tuned. Support for Philly Who comes from Boku Supper Club, an art gallery that has dinner parties featuring complimentary meals from up-and-coming Philly chefs. Check out the show notes to learn more. Also, there is some cursing in this episode. If you've ever been walking around the Queen Village neighborhood of South Philly and strolling south on 2nd Street just past Fitzwater, you may have walked right past Royal Izakaya and Sushi without even knowing it. That's because it's marked simply by a red lantern that hangs in the front and nothing more. As you walk in, you'll find Royal Izakaya to be a boisterous Japanese sake bar with tasty comfort food. But as you walk through the curtain in the back, you uncover Jesse's exclusive sushi bar, where his omakase menu has made the 10 seats surrounding his counter the most sought after in town. It's impressive that a 29-year-old can craft such a world-class experience that would take most decades to perfect. But Jesse actually does have decades of experience, since he's been surrounded by the world of seafood and sushi for as long as he can remember.
Way back when we used to do ama-ebi, so it used to be live at that point, the sweet shrimp. I used to steal them from the walk-in, the refrigerator.
Steal the shrimp?
Yeah, because they were still live, and I thought they could be my pet, so I'd try to keep one as a pet. And I would, nurture it for the day, and then my dad would say, where's that shrimp? He'd take it, and he'll serve it. And I remember one time he fried the head and gave it back to me.
Was there a lesson in there, or?
Yeah, the food's not, I don't know. It's food.
Yeah.
I mean, I deal with a lot of live product now still. And prep people and customers are a little like, don't kill it. No, don't do it. But to me, it's food.
Yeah,
maybe that struck it down for me when I was a kid.
Right, from an early age. These aren't.
Yeah, that's not a pet. We're gonna fry the head and let you eat your pet.
So, from early on, did you always want to become a sushi chef, or is it the type of thing where you couldn't wait to get out?
I think for most of my adolescence, it was the type of thing I couldn't wait to get out of.
Yeah, that tends to be the case with people, who grew up in certain industries.
I think that's why you don't see many chefs' children take it on as their career, because they saw the void it creates. I mean, you're always working, so you're not home much, and then 2, you're working. It's really hard work. And I definitely went through that. But yeah, I enjoyed it because I thought everyone likes what they're good at. I didn't start out as a sushi chef. I mean, when I was 14, I was a dishwasher. That's where it started.
I'm sure you loved that.
Yeah, I was good at it.
Yeah.
You can be good at dishwashing.
Yeah. So then at what point did you actually consider becoming a sushi chef?
I played a critical role in my dad's restaurant towards the end of high school. I could cook everything and I could make sushi, so I had to be there. I mean, this was a small BYO and we had maybe like altogether 12 employees, 10 to 12 employees. So when one person was not around, it's really hard. So I knew I had to stay. And also at that time, I liked it. I was better at it by then. I was, at 17, I was kind of a slacker at school. But like I took all the AP courses, but I was like, I don't know. I didn't do my homework and I didn't study and I didn't try. So I was a happy C student. Nice. CB student. Yeah. So, I got a scholarship to Rutgers, but I wanted to go to the restaurant school, I think. And my parents were like, absolutely not. You can't go there.
Why?
Because they said, we'll teach you how to cook.
Yeah.
And we'll pay you how to.
You've been at restaurant school your whole life.
Yeah. And that was a good point. And in retrospect, it was very good that I didn't go to culinary school and instead I went to business school. Because where I am now, I mean, understanding the concepts of marketing and business and basic economics and, accounting, that's very important. And from there, I started becoming super passionate about like marketing and entrepreneurship. And I read books like I love Simon Sinek and Gary Vaynerchuk and people like that. And I started getting really into it. And from there, that's where I really kind of took on that aspect of marketing. They didn't teach you that in college, but they kind of planted the seed for it.
So then after graduating, what was your plan? Was it that you were going to take over the restaurant eventually someday?
I could have, but I didn't want to. That was my dad's restaurant. I mean, that's like, I would never fill those shoes, you know?
Yeah, so you've been quoted as saying, I'm a big believer in not trying to fill shoes you can't fill. Why couldn't you fill these shoes?
My father and I are different chefs. We're different. And his clientele, they liked his way of doing things, which is not necessarily my way. And I didn't want to continue that way. And to rebrand that under my way, I think that's working backwards. He's also a different chef. So he grew up in Japan. He worked at all these restaurants in Osaka and Kyushu. And he has a different background on Japanese food than I do. I mean, I learned from him, but I'm more of a sushi chef. I mean, I certainly can cook and we make the menu together here at Izakaya, but my role grew more into sushi. So I'm more sushi focused, and Fuji was split on that. And the way I saw sushi changing in Philadelphia and what I wanted to do, it would never work at Fuji. We couldn't have never built that program there.
Yeah. So tell me about the moment that the opportunity came up for you to cross the river and open up a restaurant in Philly.
I was 24 and my current business partner, Dave Frank, he had been coming to Sushi Bar a lot. And I'd seen him over the years. And my other business partner, Steven, he had come for decades as well. And Dave one day just asked me during service, hey, Jesse, you want to grab a drink in Philly? And at that point, I didn't have much exposure to the complete restaurant bar scene in Philadelphia. I'd gone out, but I was just like any 23, 24
right,
year
you're
old.
going like Plowing Stars and like
stuff like that.
Stuff.
Yeah. He asked me to hang out one day, and after asking me enough times, I was like, all right,
Oh, so it took convincing.
He wanted to meet in Philly and, grab a drink. I didn't go out that much late after work, and I don't usually hang out with customers like that. So we finally met up at Vernick one night. That was my first time at Vernick. He asked me, he's like, oh yeah, he didn't know how to pitch it either. He's like, yeah, do you want to open a restaurant? Really?
I guess.
I'm like, what do you do? Dave and Steven do bars. They do good bars that serve good food, and every bar has its own, respective theme. Like Royal Tavern is just bar food. A good burger, good sandwich, good fries. That's been around for I think 12 years, and they own Khyber. Khyber used to be a rock venue, a music venue. So they used to be in the music world. They own both cantinas.
So
yeah,
with this kind of reputation, you must have been excited to work with these guys.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that they even owned any of those things until that moment. I was like, oh, okay.
And what goes through your mind when he first suggested it?
Well, my parents and I had been talking about what we were going to do at that, because I was done college and Fuji was busier than ever. It was a great time actually for business, but long term we could see that it's a small BYO in a small town in South Jersey. Is it what I wanted? What did my parents want for their future? In my mind, I'm thinking about their financial stability, my own goals, and what I want to do in life.
So it suggested to you to open up to go in on a restaurant in Philly. Now, at that point, what's interesting, I think, about Royal Sushi and Izakaya is that it's really two different restaurants, right? It's two different experiences.
Yeah.
So then at what point did the sushi aspect come in, right? Because Izakaya is a Japanese gastropub.
Yeah, it's a Japanese bar. I mean, it literally means to stay and drink sake. And then it evolved from a sake shop where people would hang out to where the owners would just send out some comfort, like small plates, some food so you can linger and eat and drink. And then, it became just a Japanese bar.
And then at what point did you add the sushi aspect?
The sushi, I mean, we had always talked about that we were going to do the sushi bar room and it was going to be designed differently. But honestly, the sushi bar program where it became like, all right, this is a legit omakase sushi restaurant hidden behind this izakaya, that didn't really come to fruition until like, I think a month before we opened the sushi bar.
How did that idea even come up to do that?
Originally, we were going to serve sushi like you could just kind of sit down in there and it would be a little more casual. And I mean, the original plan was we would serve nigiri, the pieces of sushi over rice in izakaya, and we could do it late night. But thinking of just a setup and how to execute that, I started taking that idea out. I'm like, there's no way we can produce.
Why wouldn't that work?
Because nigiri is extremely technical. I mean, cutting sashimi and making rolls is like much easier, less technical than making the pieces of sushi over rice, the form pieces. That's dependent on the chef. You need a good chef, experienced chef to do that because everyone cuts their fish differently, molds the rice differently. Some people squeeze too hard, the rice is too big. I mean, it's all these little technicalities that are very specific to the chef. But also what an izakaya is, after I started going to more in New York and other places, izakayas, and talking to my dad about what they are in Japan, you don't get nigiri in izakaya. Izakaya it's bar food. We opened the izakaya in September 2016, and then we opened the omakase bar in December of 2016. And a month before is when I kind of realized when I wrote the menu and the fish I was going to get, all right, this has to be probably just be omakase.
So omakase is basically like chef's choice type thing.
Chef's choice, yeah.
And why did it have to be that?
Because when you start ordering all this fish, which is extremely expensive, I mean, the price per pound on some of the fish range from $10 to $65 a pound. And this is head on, guts in, scales on. The $65 pound fish, after you cut the head off and clean it up, that's like a $90 per pound fillet after you clean it all off. That's your yield. That's insane. So the issue, and you see this at a lot of sushi restaurants, and I saw it at Fuji, is you can order all this amazing product and offer it a la carte, but most people will never buy it.
They're not going to know what it is.
They're not going to know what it is, and they're going to see the price, and they're going to be like, yeah, I'm not going to order that. I don't even know what it is. And then what happens at those places, and even at Fuji, you end up sitting on this product. You have a choice. You either have to like kind of give it away at a much lower, cheaper price, so while it's still good, or you're going to eat it, or hopefully no one does this, or you serve bad fish.
Yeah. Those are your options, though.
Those are your options.
I've always wondered, like, how do you even find, because a lot of them are wild caught. So is that right?
Some are, yeah. About half, yeah.
All right. Well, either way, like, how did you learn about all these obscure, expensive fish types and like, how do you even find out that one's available for tomorrow? Like, how does that even work?
I mean, that's fortunately at Fuji, my dad would always let me order one obscure fish every now and then, an expensive one, and I would just taste it, try it, work with it.
So you had that curiosity.
That's really how you have to work at a restaurant where they're going to order it and they're going to allow you to work with product like that. A lot of restaurants or owners or operators, they don't let the chef order fish like that because your food costs, if you don't sell it correctly, and we just talked about why you can't sell it correctly in most instances, your food cost goes crazy. And then they tell you don't do that. And you see that a lot in Philadelphia, I feel like.
So were you convinced before opening the omakase spot that would work? Because that really didn't exist in Philadelphia before.
I was convinced.
You knew.
I like to say that I like to take educated risks. I like to take risks where I feel like we'll succeed. Especially when you're risking a lot of money. I'm risking my parents' livelihoods. I mean, they sold everything that come on board with me.
That's crazy.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, that is. Especially when they already have a legacy.
Yeah, they sold a 40-year-old restaurant.
Wow.
Because they trusted what I thought would work.
Wow.
That's huge. I mean, that's awesome now that looking back, but at the same time, the burden on me to succeed. When we opened, I was 27, and I had 2 business partners, and both my parents who are divorced, but so they have different incomes. I was stressed beyond control. Opening a restaurant is very hard, if you can imagine. I mean, you have to build a culture. Any new restaurant doesn't have a culture yet. And you're bringing all these new people, all these employees into an organization, and without a culture present, sometimes things don't go the way you want, or as an owner, and that takes time to develop. I think any organization needs a strong culture.
Yeah. What kind of culture did you guys build here?
We like it where everyone's working really hard. I know that sounds funny to say, but I don't know if you ever go out to eat and you see people doing things. I don't know if they should be doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see it all the time, which is why when I go out to eat, I try to turn my brain off about certain stuff.
Turn off the owner.
Yeah,
brain.
like I see, I don't want to see that.
Yeah, you're not going to let it happen here at the very
right.
least.
I don't want it. Yeah, especially when I'm here every day.
Yeah,
I can't. So yeah, that takes time to build. There has to be rules.
So you mentioned that how you always have been into entrepreneurship and that you follow these entrepreneur personalities like Gary Vee, etc. And I do as well. And one thing that I always sort of grapple with as an entrepreneur myself is that balance when you're starting a venture between intuition,
right,
and hard feedback and data.
Yeah.
Right. So we're kind of going back a little bit to that point where you knew that the omakase would work. You have all these folks betting on this with you. And you're only 24. You said 24?
I was 24 when we started talking
crazy,
about it.
man.
Yeah.
So where did you fall on that spectrum? Was there a balance? Like, did you have any data to back it up, or was it just you're going with your gut? We're betting it all on black. Let's see how this works.
I mean, the thing is, at Fuji, we offered omakase. It wasn't quite like what we have now at Royal Sushi. But I did omakase for my regulars. And if you walked in, they're like, hey, chef, can you do an omakase for me? I could do it. And there was so much demand for that. And I see what people really want. And I saw the way my dad did omakase, and he included a lot of cooked dishes, which is great. But when you're doing cooked dishes and you give it to someone, people always need a new cooked dish, right? When you go to do a tasting menu at this restaurant, you might not go back for a while because you're going to wait till they change up the menu more. Sushi was all my regulars. It was craveable. Like it's almost like a drug, like an addiction.
Yeah. Yeah.
The way people talk about it was like I was their drug dealer. They're like, hey, they come in and they're like, hey, Jesse, I need my fix. Like, and then my super regulars, I'll give them a new piece on me. Like, here, try this.
Yeah.
Like try this good stuff. And then they're hooked. And it's super expensive next time they order. And, then they're buying it. I sounded like a sushi dealer, right? I guess I am.
Yo, I got this new import.
yeah, I got this new product. You want to try it? But I saw that it's this craveable thing, and the experience in itself, one piece at a time.
Yeah.
People love it, and that's the best way to eat it. The difference between eating, sushi one piece at a time, prepared one at a time, versus getting a plate is totally different. I mean, you pay a premium to get a warm piece of sushi. So the rice is warm, the fish is at room temperature, the sauce has just been dressed, so it has that wet look to it. It looks live, so we call it like the drop. I mean, as soon as you drop the fish down on the serving plate, so there's the ledge and the serving plate, and you just drop the fish. It's like a magical moment.
So when I came that night, I came with Lawrence. Special thank you to Lawrence for bringing me. I didn't know what I was getting into, really. Like, he's a friend of mine, and he said, hey, you want to come with us to get some sushi? I'm like, yeah, I love sushi. Yeah, sure, I'm there. And we're back there, and I experienced my first drop and had that bite, and I'm like, where are we? Like, what is this? I had no clue. And you're right. I had never had sushi like that before. Now, my first instinct as a, I guess, layman sushi eater was to dunk it in soy sauce.
I mean, but most places are built that way. Even at Fuji, until when I did omakase, you're provided with the means to do that, and the chef doesn't sauce it for you. But yeah, if you want to eat really good sushi, just like any other food, it's already seasoned for you. Not everyone can do that. And in an omakase bar, when you sat down, I don't know if you noticed, I'm cutting all the fish when everyone's sitting. Everything. So we're getting everything at temperature. And then the rice, we bring up a new batch of rice for that seating. So it's warm and umptuous. That's the way it should be, the temperature. So it's a lot of effort that's going into creating the right temperature for all the products, so that when you put it in your mouth, it's warm.
It's just that perfect experience.
Right. And when I opened the Royal Sushi, the omakase, I provided soy sauce dishes, even though I dressed it. And I provided soy sauce if you wanted to add. And I provided wasabi on the side if you wanted to add it. And I didn't yell at people for putting ginger on their fish. And I would try to talk to people about it, but I took all that out. Like, you still have ginger there. That's a palate cleanser. But if I see you putting on your fish, I tell them, I don't advise doing that. I don't yell at people. But the omakase program's evolved so much over the past, it's almost 2 years now that's been open, and it's evolved so much.
And so at what moment did the omakase part go from just this intuition, I think this can work, I think this is going to work, I'm pretty sure this is going to work, to we did it? Would you say you're even there now?
I think we're there now. Yeah, I mean, we were there probably a year ago.
So was there a moment where you're like, this is we were right, this is exactly what we had in mind?
Yeah, probably 3 months in.
Wow, that quick.
After opening it. Yeah, it just, after the Craig Laban review, and then we put Resi on so we could have a cancellation fee, hold people to it. And that's a whole nother subject. I hate it when people book multiple venues and cancel. Well, I guess to better answer your question, when the 10 o'clock seatings became always booked, that's when I knew. I was like, all right, this is definitely now. It's working.
So that must have been a really cool moment when you had that realization.
Yeah. But now, I mean, we just got the 4-bell upgrade. And so on Resi, you can see your wait list. Guests can sign up to be notified on certain nights. And it used to be on a Saturday night, there may be 300 people on that notify list. Now it's 800, 900. Yeah. I think it's breaking the system, actually, because we were having some hiccups on Saturday where if 900 people get a cancellation message and then everyone trying to book in a minute.
You're saying that there are, so on a Saturday night, somebody has a reservation, they have to cancel. 900 people get notified that there's an availability. And they're all going in and trying to swipe that one spot.
It fills up in under a minute. I think the system, it's not used to that demand for one seat immediately, just like that.
Yeah. So you alluded to the 4-bell rating you got. So it was originally 3, got upgraded to 4. When that happened, how did you feel?
That's probably one of the biggest honors so far. I felt I have vivid memories of my father always telling customers that he always wanted 4 bells. Forever he wanted that, and the fact that we could do this together and get that, and so in my mind, I've been built up that is the ultimate thing, and it kind of is in Philadelphia. I mean, how many restaurants have it? Maybe 6 or 7 now. I mean, now I'm with this group, and yeah, it's super amazing, and it's kind of crazy thinking about it. I'm 29 and I'm part of this group now.
After the break, we'll hear about one of the darkest moments in Jesse's career, which happened during the recession. And we'll also hear one of the more recent highlights, like the time that Greg Vernick and John George chose to have their party at Royal Izakaya. Stay tuned. So here's a heartfelt thanks to Boku Supper Club for their support in making this podcast happen. Like me, Boku's founder Ryan had a passion project that quickly took off and pulled him away from his full-time job. And while mine was podcasting, his was hosting art shows / dinner parties in his house. In 2016, he ditched the job and went full-time, and these days, Boku hosts one of the most exclusive and tasty art shows Philly has to offer. When Ryan reached out to tell me how much he loved the podcast and asked whether Boku could help support it, my first thought was, what the heck is a Boku?
It is the phonetic spelling of Boku in French. Okay. And Boku in French means in excess or a lot. Merci beaucoup, thank you very much.
4 nights a week, Ryan hosts a Boku in his home, which he converted into an art gallery. As the 30 guests peruse and sometimes buy the artist's work, an up-and-coming Philly chef prepares a multi-course complimentary meal, which everyone then enjoys together.
All I have to do is look out in the main dining room, see everyone chatting with everybody else. There's a lot of fervor. People are enjoying the food. They're buying art off the walls. You just take a look at that, and you can tell that you're doing something pretty cool.
Head to stayboku.com. That's stayboku.com to learn about the next Boku's featured artist and chef, and to join the email list and get notified when the next featured Boku is announced. Welcome back to Philly Who with Jesse Ito. So if you follow Jesse Ito on Instagram at Jesse Ito, you'll see a photo from October 18th, 2018, announcing that he'd earned the coveted 4-bell rating from Craig Laban at The Inquirer. In the post, he shares a moment of thanks for the recognition, and at that moment of success, he shares a piece of advice. Remember all your past failures so you can succeed in the future.
Around the recession time, 2009, things were tough. I mean, that hit us hard at Fuji. My mom and dad owned it. I mean, they were divorced, but they ran it together, so that's not a good setup in general where, a divorced couple runs a business together. But, I was part of the mix at that point, and when money starts getting tight, things aren't. That's another thing that we're super busy now, and I always say I'd rather have the problem be way too busy than slow, because when you're slow at a restaurant, it's rough. But I remember, at that time, things were a bit tumultuous, and there was one service where we were super busy on a Sunday. I was alone in the sushi bar, and we had 8 counter seats, and it was 8 regulars came in. They're all my regulars, so they're like, Jesse, Matt, can you cook for us? Yeah, sure. And then the rest of the restaurant filled up, and then I get inundated with all these other orders of, I still had to make all the rolls and sashimi and nigiri, all the pieces of sushi that the whole other restaurant was ordering. And we sat 70 people at that restaurant, so it was packed. And, I was just working as fast as I can. But you're looking at everyone. I'm just apologizing to all my regulars, dropping the sushi and giving them the plates. I'm sorry that, this taking so long, and I'm still making it for the tables. And I see them looking at me and looking at servers like, what's taking so long? People are angry. And I've totally empathize with guests' experiences. Like, I want people to have a great experience, and I remember that night. It was just terrible service, and we got through it. But I remember I broke a super expensive dish, and I still have that shard. I think I kept it because I was like, I don't want to forget what really bad service is. But that bad service combined with just that moment, I mean, that time in our life where we were in a recession and business wasn't good, and it's hard on family life too, personal life.
Yeah. So do you see that shard now and again when, on a day when you get the 4 bells, and just days when you're selling out 10 p.m. on a Thursday, like, is that reminder there that helps you sort of appreciate the highs?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm a firm believer that you have to really grasp those low moments and the failures to succeed. Like every failure I've had, whether it be service or personal, I try to meditate why that failed. Like why was that a failure? I feel like it's really important to dwell on those things. And it hurts. No one likes to dwell on that. But if you want to get to the next level, you have to fail. And you have to see what failure is and feel it. If you never feel it, you're not scared of it. You don't fear it. Like I work every day. I'm here like almost every day, and my customers and other other restaurant people or friends are like, why do you work every day? Why are you there every day? It's because I don't ever want that to happen here. And I think that's part of the success, definitely, that, my dad and I are here almost every day.
So what would you say has been your favorite moment in Izakaya so far?
So about a month or 2 ago, Greg Vernick gave me a phone call asking if I could take on a late night party of some VIPs. I was like, well, who? He's like, oh, my former boss, Jean George, because John George is opening in the Comcast Center on the top in the new Four Seasons, and they were doing some event at the Bach building, so it would have finished super late. And Greg was asking, hey, can I host a large party in the Izakaya? Because Omakase is closed and we can't fit 20 people in there.
Right.
And of course I'm like, yeah,
come here.
I'll be there too. I'll stay till 11 p.m. on a Monday when I'm usually not there that late. I was like, yeah, let's do it. And John George and his all his opener chefs like the top tier chefs in his company and his like vice president, they all came in.
Wow.
With some other chefs and some other restaurant people, and Greg was there too. It was Greg's birthday that night, and like, oh my God, it's like super humbling. Like, I grew up reading Jean-Georges books. My dad had Jean-Georges books in his cookbook library. And this is Jean-Georges in my izakaya having a great time, just like eating it up, because they know what izakaya is. They've traveled the world. They're just ordering bottles of sake and all the Japanese bites. And I'm coming out with more Japanese bites. I'm like, oh, yeah, here, eat this. And then I asked Greg, I was like, hey, can I get a picture with Jean-Georges? He's like, yeah, man, come out. So I get sandwiched between them. And this is on my Instagram. And we took a picture in my booth. And then Jean-Georges starts like singing happy birthday for Greg, and all 20, like the whole restaurant singing happy birthday to Greg. And I'm like, this is happening here. Like, this is so fucking
Your
amazing.
restaurant.
Yeah, it's fucking Jean-Georges. Like,
I love it.
I don't get starstruck when athletes come in. I don't know much about sports because I'm always working and I never followed up on sports.
Right.
I don't know if there's an Eagles player or Phillies player is in, although they should come in though, Makase.
Yeah.
So I love that. But Jean-Georges, I was nervous and starstruck and excited, and like my heart was beating fast. I was like, oh man, to me, that's a superstar. Like, this is a world-renowned chef. There's not many chefs on this caliber, this level. And yeah, that was a magical night. They were there till like, I think 1 a.m. just drinking. I left before them.
Wow.
It was amazing.
You left.
Yeah, I was like, I gotta go, guys. You keep partying, keep ordering sake. I gotta go, but thank you so much. And that was probably one of the most amazing moments in izakaya thus far.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. What has it been like getting to know the other chefs around the city?
It's been awesome. It's part of what makes me love Philadelphia. Philly is just it's an amazing city. It's on the brink of, I think it's on the brink of becoming well known as an amazing city from the rest of the America.
Yeah.
I think a couple years ago a New Yorker they used to shit on Philly, but that's not how it is anymore. Eagles won the Super Bowl. We got chefs representing here who won James Beard Awards, but Philly's like to me, it's still a super low-key, humble city. And I think because of what I just said, that's why we are that way. Not most of the chefs I know aren't pretentious, and they're super like humble and modest and self-aware of that we're just cooks at the end of the day.
Would you say that there's a collective pride within the upper echelon chef scene here in Philly?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Nick Elmy asked me to do like a pop-up dinner at Laurel, like take over the restaurant, do your menu with your dad. This is before we even announced that we're doing izakaya, but this is after we closed the restaurant. He's like, hey, Jesse, what's your number? And we had talked before, but I don't think we were buddy at that time. And it was so awesome that he extended me this opportunity. He's like, yeah, take over my 4-bell restaurant, or it was 3 bells at the time, but my like critically acclaimed top restaurant, and do your thing. Because I did that event, I met everyone who worked there, and we started all hanging out, and I met all the other chefs at the other restaurants, and they become such amazing friends and support.
That's so cool to hear, because a lot of these folks are, established, and it sounds like they were welcoming of the young gun, the up and comer.
Yeah, and they tell me they believed in me too.
Yeah,
and like when I got the 4 bells, Michael Somnoff woke me up. He called me like 9 in the morning. He's like, and I usually won't answer. I was like, oh, okay, it's Michael calling. So I picked up the phone, and he was with Steve. They just wanted to congratulate me and send me this warm congratulations and this stuff like that. Like the support system here is awesome. It's great to know these amazing chefs who are renowned on a national, some international level, and to be able to call them my friends, and to if I need to talk to them about something, if we want to like just bullshit about stuff, we can. But that's awesome, like to be able to do that.
If you could send a message to yourself in the past, butterfly effect aside, everything will remain the same. You're not going to lose anything.
Yeah.
From any point, from the 5-year-old with the pet shrimp, the 14-year-old with the egg, Rutgers, the whole 9 yards. What would you say?
I'll say 2 things. I think I would send a message back to my young 20 self or late teens to stop being so cocky, because you're about to get your ass whooped in multiple ways. I was cocky, I think, when I was younger, and I think the older you get, the more you realize you don't know anything.
Yeah.
And then maybe my younger self that, when I was 14 and just starting in the restaurant business and not knowing what I wanted to do, that things are going to get a lot better. But the butterfly effect, if I told myself that, I don't know if things would have happened like that. Because maybe the fact that things weren't so great and I wanted to change that. Yeah. I think that definitely played into who I am today.
Sometimes I think about rewording that question to say, somebody today who may be in your shoes. Yeah. An up and coming somebody who's interested in either being a sushi chef or being a chef or whatever. What kind of advice would you give them?
If someone's interested in being like a chef, I would tell them that they should go try to work somewhere amazing and they should travel. And while you're young, before you open a restaurant, here's what I would say. I would say you should try to do as much as you can. Travel, go work at some crazy restaurant in another country if you can. If you have the opportunity, you're young and you don't own a house and you don't own a business and you're not married, do it. Because once you open a restaurant, like I'm an owner here, I'm kind of grounded, which is great. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love being an owner and I love having this business, but I went a very linear path where I'm a sushi chef and I'm a Japanese chef and I'm trained one way. But if you have the opportunity to go, I don't know, Japan or Spain or Korea or like South America for a year or 2 years, and I would say risk it. The experience when you're young and able to risk things and fail and lose things, do it. Don't be afraid of failing. Because if you're afraid of failing, you're never gonna get to a certain level because you're too prideful to put yourself out there.
From your perspective, whether in the chef world, sushi or not, what's the biggest challenge facing Philadelphia today?
With sushi, I mean, it's educating the market.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, we're still doing it. It's going great.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you're doing here is you're educating all of us. You educated me.
Well, that's why I said when we opened, we offered soy sauce and all the stuff on the side. And I didn't yell at you or I didn't really tell you don't do that.
Right.
But it was the first omakase bar of this nature. I didn't want to jump in and just like tear people to pieces. That's not really educating people. That's being mean, and then everyone's gonna be like, yeah, I'm not into that. That's a really pretentious experience. But the way I saw it, I'm like, I'm gonna build a market here, and I'm gonna build regulars, and then as we get to know each other, I'm gonna start saying, don't do that. But now it's gotten to a point where I realize that it's my duty to tell people that you can't, this is the way you should eat it. Because if I don't tell you that, if I don't educate you on that, or at least give you the framework for it, and then you go to New York or you go to Tokyo or you go some other nice sushi bar and you're eating what we would call improperly. And then the chef's like, oh, what do you eat? And you say, oh, yeah, I go to Royal Sushi with Jesse Ito. And they're going to be like, well, Jesse Ito doesn't know anything because he didn't tell you that. Yeah. That. And I see other customers of other places and they eat totally like, I don't like how they eat. I'm like, that's not how you eat sushi.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's my duty almost for the reputation of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
This is how,
teach us how to
if you eat
sushi.
omakase, like this is the culture. This is the etiquette to do it.
Yeah.
If you really don't want to do it, I'm not going to force you. What can I do to make you do it?
At least though.
Right. I'm going to present you with the etiquette so that if you're at some other sushi bar in the country or the world, you can do it and they'll be impressed.
Right.
They'll be like, oh, this person knows exactly
awesome.
how to eat sushi.
On the flip side, what's the most encouraging thing about Philadelphia?
It's kind of like the chef's here, I think. I mean, it's the backbone, the support. Everyone's super awesome here. Super supportive.
Finally, if you could send a message to every Philadelphian, so whether it's a tweet, an email, something written in the sky, a billboard, one message that every Philadelphian would be able to see and ponder, what would you say?
I would say try to live in the moment more. I mean, me running omakase, interacting with guests, and I'm not like a chef in the kitchen who's walled away from the dining room. I see everyone, and I have to say, try to live in the moment. Like, if you're eating food with this person you love, or you're, on an anniversary or a birthday or with your friends, talk to them. Get off your phone. I see people, and I feel like sometimes they're living through the phone. And I totally get that when you get likes and all this stuff, it feels good. But if you're at a music concert, instead of holding it, the people who videotape the whole concert from their phone and they're looking it through their little screen, and you're there, put your phone down.
It's
Take
right
it
there.
all in. And are you actually going to ever watch that video again?
Right. No, I doubt it. And nobody wants to see it on your Instagram story either.
But yeah, I mean, looking all around, I was at New York yesterday, and we went to Torishin, which is a Michelin star yakitori place.
Wow.
Amazing. But yeah, there was like some people around me who they're eating this amazing food, and they're like cooking right in front of you, and they're just literally on their phone swiping through Instagram. They take the picture, put it to their feed. They keep swiping, they eat it, and then swipe again. They're with a friend. They're not even talking. I'm like, what? To me, that's just crazy.
Why are you even here?
Yeah. So I would say try to live in the now more. Try to take on your experiences. If you want to photograph it, sure. I mean, I do that too, but talk with the chef, interact with the people around you, take it all in, the ambiance, what's going on, what makes the place amazing, the smell. So as soon as you walk in that restaurant, you smell the charcoal. It's like all these little inputs. They don't take it in because they're just stuck on their phone.
For more on Jesse and Royal Izakaya and Sushi, check out the show notes or head to podphillyhoo.com/ito. That's ITO. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, give us a rating. Philly Who is a Q9 production with editing by Max Graham, music by Lee Rosevere, and artwork by Lauren Carhart. Special thanks to Lawrence Choi and Laura McLafferty, and of course to Jesse for being on the show. For Philly Who, my name is Kevin Schmidlin. See you next week, and happy Thanksgiving.